The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our Untangled Tech Talk. We're going to be talking about Command Center, and we're going to be going through some of the features and some of the cool dashboards that we have, and should be a really good in-depth conversation with our technical services engineer, Eric Newvine. If my voice sounds a little different than before, I'm Amy Morganroth. I'm part of the marketing team, and I'm just filling in for Steve today while he takes a much needed vacation, but he will be back next time. And then just a couple housekeeping rules before we get started. If you do have any audio issues, please use the audio panel to select your preferences. If you select to use the phone, you will need to dial in and use the access code provided. And just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll have the option to rewatch or revisit any areas that you want to hear again via our YouTube channel. We'll also be answering questions throughout the presentation, so please submit any questions that you have or anything you would like clarification on through the Q&A box. You can always send any other questions that you think of at any other time to sales@untangle.com as well. So that's it for me, and we're going to pass it along to Eric to get us started.
Thanks, Amy. So Command Center, what is it? Command Center is a centralized management console that's entirely cloud-based. This management console allows you to administer and manage all of your Untangle firewall deployments. Whether that's an NG firewall or the new SD-WAN router, everything is done in our Command Center. This also lets you manage your relationship with Untangle, meaning your billing and subscription information as well as your devices. The Command Center is included at no charge for every device that also has an NG Firewall Complete subscription tied to it. There are some features that are actually available on all of our devices, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So some of the key benefits of our Command Center, outside of just the ability to manage your subscriptions, you can easily manage multi-site deployments without needing any additional hardware. So for example, if you've ever used Unify or any of the other products that are out there that provide a management device of sorts, this doesn't need a device. This is all done in the cloud. We also provide alerts, threat history, and audit logs for all sites. Well, what that means is you can see quickly and easily in a single pane of glass view everything that's happening or is affecting all of your deployments. As I'd said, this does give you the ability to also manage your licenses and software updates. But in addition to that, you also can access your device's automatic daily cloud backups. So if you have your configuration backup set up on your NG firewall, this is where you would retrieve those backups. Command Center reduces management and overhead costs. Again, there's no extra costs, no charges in relation to using this product, and you don't have to worry about keeping a piece of hardware somewhere to manage your devices. You can also clone, edit, and push policies or configurations across your entire fleet, including templates for quick installations. You can manage all of your devices on the network utilizing some of our integration partners like Malwarebytes. Through their endpoint protection software, you can actually see what's happening on individual hosts and even do some management of those hosts. Currently, it is just Malwarebytes, but we are talking with several other possible integration partners in the future. You can configure all of your appliances with near zero touch provisioning. Basically you get the unit registered to your device, or to your account rather, And then from there, you can leverage all of the tools that are available in Command Center to essentially set up the device from start to finish without actually needing to touch the device itself. This makes this an ideal platform for MSP and MSSP partners. So the Appliances tab in the Command Center provides information specifically about a given and Untangle deployed device. That information includes system status, uptime, bandwidth usage, hosts that are active, network activity, and access to your backups. You can also see some network, software, and hardware related information in this view. You also can leverage what we call bulk upgrades, where basically you can go into the Command Center and just hit upgrade to upgrade your devices remotely without needing to actually touch the device itself. The Appliances view provides a means for you to securely and remotely access any of your devices. That remote access leverages technology that does not require you to open any ports or protocols or services in your firewall, and it's still secure. You can create a manual backup or restore backups from this view. You also will get alert and threats by appliance in this view. In the dashboard that we were looking at in the previous slide, that was alerts and threats across your entire fleet. The Appliances view lets you see it by appliance. And then, of course, from this view, you also have the ability to assign a subscription license to this specific appliance. Jumping back to the dashboard real quick, a couple of things that are important that is available in the dashboard view. You can see the status of all of your deployed devices quickly right up here on this Appliances view. Anything with a green light means that it's connected and active. Anything with a red light or an exclamation warning means that there's something that you need to be concerned about with that specific device, whether it's whether it's doesn't have a license, whether a license has expired. There's several different alerts that we can give you in that status view. You also can see the locations of all of your devices on the map. You can see their basic connectivity statistics, detected threats, bandwidth usage, and other critical alerts that are occurring on your devices from the dashboard. Again, this is all aggregated data. So all her alerts and threat history are for all of your devices, not just a single appliance. You also can see changes to account information, purchases, and login attempts in the audit view, audit log rather, which is this report right here, this audit history. That will give you a running log of events that are happening in your Untangle as well as in Command Center itself. Let's talk about alerts. Alerts are similar to what you're used to seeing in the Untangle NG firewall itself, but this is a more global approach. So this gives you the ability to see much more of what's happening outside of a specific NG firewall itself. It lets you see everything happening across your entire infrastructure, whether that's a single business or if you're an MSP, all of your customers. And it gives you an easy management tool for multi-site deployment. Our alerts in the Command Center utilize notification profiles. Those notification profiles are then used for how to deliver the alerts that you create. And we'll take a look at those in the demo. There is a separate notification log that you can see in the dashboard that shows you when things have happened. And the alerts in Command Center leverage other tools besides email, which is the only option in the Untangled devices themselves, in the command center, you can leverage management tools like PagerDuty or Slack or VictorOps to get alerts instantaneously and even sent to an entire team instead of a single email address. Oh, somehow we duplicated that one, so I'm going to skip ahead. The hosts view. The hosts view is where you can see real-time activity for all active hosts behind every deployed NG firewall or SD-WAN router that is assigned to this account. You can see per host information like operating system, session activity, summary of whether you're using Malwarebytes or just want to see general app-like activity, so web activity or applications being used on that host. You can see all of that from the hosts view. If you are leveraging our Malwarebytes endpoint protection integration, you can also do some additional things like performing an antivirus scan or even locking down a workstation if it fails an antivirus scan directly from Command Center. The policies view in Command Center is where we do the zero-touch provisioning that we were talking about. This is where you create templates or policy configurations that you want to share across multiple NG firewall deployments. You can create a master template, then clone that and push it to as many other Untangle devices that you want to. Now, this can be a complete template of every application configuration that is available on the master, or you can do individual application templates. So you have the option to do all app configurations or just specific ones. The reports view in Command Center is a little different than what you're used to in the NG firewall. This again is aggregated data for all of your deployments that have been assigned to your account. The Command Center will only store 30 days of reporting. So unlike the NG firewall, where you can change the amount of retention days, you are limited to 30 days of reporting in the Command Center. But just like with the NG firewall, there are several reports available for you to see what's happening in your fleet. You can get audit history, you can get alert reports, you can get host name bandwidth information, you can get web filter information, as well as many others. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is the accounts menu option in the Command Center. Accounts is essentially the settings screen for Command Center. This is where you do all of your license management, provisioning, and billing. You have the ability to create sub-users in your Command Center account. With those sub-users, you can assign access to billing information, or you can assign access to individual devices, or you can hybrid that and give them some access to some things and no access to others. It's entirely up to you. And then, of course, the other thing that's in here is our Scout IQ cyber threat intelligence. That's actually leveraged through our both the tools as well as options in the accounts screen. That Scout IQ will let you put in upload a file and see whether or not that file is a virus. You have the ability to also do lookups for IP addresses or domains to see whether or not they've been compromised, as well as getting general just information about that site. So you can do essentially a whois lookup on that IP or URL all through the Command Center. Okay, so let's take a look at the command center in much deeper detail. Give me just one moment to get logged back in here. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things that we've already just talked about in more detail so that you can kind of get a feel for how these things work. The first thing I wanted to touch on was the alerts. I wanted to show you what a notification profile actually looks like. Alert rules themselves, if you've created an alert in the NG firewall, you're already pretty familiar with how this works in the command center, with a couple of slight differences. The main one being you have to select which notification profile you want to use for the alert. But the rest of it is creating the string in the audit log for what you want to be watching and setting it to active and giving it a name. So instead of a condition, it's putting in a string from the audit log. But that's the only significant difference. Notification profiles is how you tell the command center the method to deliver an alert. So a notification profile is how we actually decide not only what to send, but how to send. So we have several different options in here. The most common one, so it's the default, is email. But as you can see, there are several other ones here. So I'm going to select email. And you can see that it has the from address as well as a to address and CC and BCC fields as well. So you can send this to multiple email addresses without having to worry about protection and privacy. You can BCC additional email addresses if you need to. But you can also leverage Slack, for example. So if you're using Slack, essentially what you do is you put in the Slack channel URL that you want to send it to. And then that notification profile will send an alert string to that Slack channel. And then people who are subscribed to that channel can then see it and take action. PagerDuty, routing key, and the severity of the pager call. And then, of course, you have the option to use a generic webhook. This is the open-ended method for integrating with third parties. If they have the ability to use a webhook, then chances are good that you can use the command center to send an alert to that platform. Once your notification profile has been created and completed, you go back into alert rules, and when you create a rule, it'll show up here. In the alerts view, you also have access to some reporting. You can see audit history from here, not just in the dashboard. So you can see what's going on and then quickly create a new alert rule based on what you're seeing here. So you don't have to jump between tabs. There's also alerts received. That's just a running list of the alerts that we've sent. And then the notification log. And this is based on the type of notification profile that you're using. So let's take a look now at how the appliances view some of the options work in here. I had mentioned that you can see the configuration backups that have been taken automatically in this screen. You do have to scroll down a little bit, but it's right here under Cloud Backups. And we keep several of those backups available to you to download. So you get, the last couple of days with the ability to see even more than those, depending on how long that device has been online. From this same pane, you can also manually create a backup for the given device or send a backup to be restored to that device. Some other things that are available in a couple of different places that you can see in the appliances view is licensing. You have the option to buy a license for this device directly from the appliances tab. That'll take you to our online store. Or if you've already purchased a subscription and want to apply it to this device, you can hit add license, and it will immediately list all of the licenses that are available and not assigned currently to another device. Just check the box that you want to assign it, hit add, and that's all there is to it. As long as that box is online and communicating with the command center, it will automatically get that subscription. The remote access feature. Basically what we do is we're establishing a connection from the unit to the command center. And then we leverage that connection to connect back in. That's why it's secure. That's why you do not need to open any ports on your firewall, because the connection is being established by the device to command center, and then we're just using that to connect back. So when a device is online, you hit remote access, it will open a new tab and log you directly into that device as if you were local to it. And there we are, logged into this device. So we can then administer it just like we would if we were logged in with the admin user. While we're talking about this remote access option, if we go back into my account, and take a look at a couple of settings, we have enable automatic login for remote access turned on here. That is not enabled by default. If that's not enabled, you'll get presented with a login prompt when you remote access a device. But for simplicity's sake, you can turn that off by enabling automatic login. And the reason why we provide this is if the device is already assigned and registered to your account, then we already know that it's yours. So then it should be, from a security standpoint, absolutely fine for you to access it without needing to provide credentials to get in. As an additional layer of security, along those same lines, we do have an option for two-factor authentication to Command Center. If you enable two-factor authentication, this is for logging into Command Center itself. When a user logs in, the email address that they're using to log in will get an email with a code that they would then enter into the login screen to continue. Jumping back to the appliances view, there was one additional thing that I wanted to show you here. The UID that you see here, you don't have to have that showing all the time. You can actually mask that UID so the middle two octets are blanked out, they're X's, just to add an additional layer of security if you need it. That option is in that same place, that same screen as we were looking at with the security options. The other thing that you can do, aside from a UID, you can also set a tag on a device in Command Center so that you can easily identify it without having to worry about remembering which UID belongs to which device. For example, this device is tagged as Vandelay Industries number 2. Let's select one that doesn't have a tag so you can see how this works. So we call it test box, and we'll say number 1. hit save. Now you can see that that changed. So now it shows test box number 1. So this provides a quick, easy means for you to identify every single device that you have in your command center. Let's take a look at how you create a policy template. This is probably one of the most useful tools that we provide for MSPs, but it also has several other use cases. For example, if you are a multi-site business where you have 5, 10, 20 branch offices, and you know that every single device needs to have the same configuration, you can come into Command Center, go to the Policies tab, create a template. You select the device that you've already configured, let's say at your headquarters, as the master. And then every single device that you want to get that configuration, and we'll use marketing 2 and 3, and we'll just say those are branch offices. And then you have the option to select whether or not to keep that configuration in sync with the master. So basically what that means is anytime a change is made to the configuration of the master, it'll automatically get pushed automatically or incrementally, depending on what you select, without you needing to actually go and touch each and every one of those secondary boxes. It's done for you. You don't have to worry about it. Then at that point, it's just a matter of hitting next to save, and you're done. That's all there is to creating a policy. Now, like I said, there are multiple possible ways to use policies, whether it's multi-site or whether you want to do hardware failover, for example. So let's say you have 2 devices on your network and you want one to act as a hot spare to take over in the event of a failure on your primary device. You can set up a template the same way to sync the settings between those 2 devices. So you don't have to worry about going on to that secondary device and periodically restoring a backup to it or manually changing a configuration. The Command Center will do it for you. And like I said, that is the template configuration is all applications in one single template. You do have the ability to create individual app templates. So if you want to send just the firewall app or just the web filter or application control configuration to another device, you can do that just as easily. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to show was the Malwarebytes integration. So there's 2 steps here. The first one being, of course, that you need to have a Malwarebytes cloud account to utilize in Command Center. You enter your credentials for that cloud account, save it, and then the second piece is actually having devices on your network behind the Untangle product with Malwarebytes endpoint security running. Between those 2, you can then leverage the hosts view to see whether or not there's something going on with a device, or simply just to run an antivirus scan on a given device. Did we have any questions to this point that I can help with, or are we doing okay?
Pretty good so far. We've only had a few.
Okay. So the other thing that I do want to mention, I'm sure that most of you are aware that we're about to do this SD-WAN router hardware solution. I wanted to point out that the command center will work with both the NG firewall and the SD-WAN router. Everything that you see that we've been doing with the NG firewall will work with an SD-WAN as well. For example, this is an SD-WAN router. It's available, it's showing there. I can hit remote access. Right now, it's not letting me in because we've probably turned a rule off because it's a test box. But if everything were set normally, you would be able to use the remote access button the same way that you would with an NG firewall to access those devices remotely. This will also show up in the hosts view. Unfortunately, I can't show it right now because we're still building out that architecture, so the hosts view doesn't show data at the moment on our test box. It's empty because we're testing things. We're trying to verify whether or not we have everything that we need to make this work. All right. Did anybody need or want to see anything specific that I haven't touched at this point before we wrap things up?
Eric, we had a question about transferring subscriptions, but that was really the only thing, like functionality-wise, that we had questions about.
Sure. I can absolutely look at that. So that's actually done in the account screen again. If we go to subscriptions, you can share a subscription with another command center account. So let's say a partner has purchased for one of their customers a appliance and a subscription to go with it. The device may not actually be registered to that partner. The user might be registered to it, but the subscription is still under the partner's account. So what the partner would do is they would come into their command center, identify the subscription that they want to share access to that customer, hit manage, and then select allow another user to view and unassign this subscription. And then you would enter their email address. Now, the only caveat here is the email address you send it to does need to have a command center account tied to it. Without that, you're just sending a link to an email address and it won't work. But that's it. That's how you would share access to a subscription between accounts. All right, if we don't have any other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up. All right, Amy, if you wanted to go ahead and finish things off, I'm done with my piece.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. Yes, so we just kind of want to brag a little bit about some of the product awards that we recently won for NG Firewall. A full list of the awards are listed on our website. We totally encourage you guys to come visit. We also wanted to let you know that there's a lot of information about our Untangle SD-WAN router, the E-Series appliances that Eric mentioned, and just a plethora of data sheets and in-depth, feature-rich information that you guys can download. There is also another webinar coming up on November 21st that will do a full overview and demo of the Untangle SD-WAN router and E-Series appliances. We do also want to remind you guys that the SD-WAN router is available for pre-order now. So if you are interested in it and you want to get in early, there is a pre-order special going on. It's 40% off an annual subscription. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, where this webinar is going to be posted for on demand. And thank you, Eric, and everybody for answering the questions in the background. We really appreciate it. So yeah, I think we're good.
Thanks everybody for your time today. Really appreciate it.